Hi, my name is Jen Morgan, and I run a strategic brand marketing agency called Radically Distinct. And just the other day, I was speaking with a woman who sits on the board of education in one of the provinces in Canada. And they were underway with a new initiative pre-pandemic that is now looking like it's going to be a much greater application than they had originally planned. And it's both a highly political and deeply needed issue in the school system, and she's very passionate about it. And none of that is new. It was always like that. But now there's this new pressure to move into high gear and capture the opportunity in front of them. And that pressure amongst being stuck at home with their family and all the distractions makes it really challenging to just figure out, like, how do I find my voice? And that was really what our question was, amongst all this pressure, how do I find my voice and figure out how to get to carry this message? And I think this is a great question because how many people have known exactly what to do and what to say, but just can't figure out how to get at it? The fear of offending someone that you're trying to really provide service to or someone you're trying to empower. It's real easy to have all the right intention, but just say it in all the wrong way. And usually really good communicators struggle with this problem, right? It's usually the people who are good at understanding that effective communication requires both a sender and a receiver. And so if you understand that, then you are likely thinking about the receptive party when you're thinking about how to communicate it. That's a good thing. When you're attempting to communicate something that is complicated and highly political and that you care about, there's a much higher probability that what you say and what you mean aren't going to be the same thing. So there's real reason to have concern and to get a little tongue-tied in these high stakes moments. And then there's the added pressure of timing. When time is of the essence, it can just kind of all of a sudden clam you up. So how do you find your voice when stakes are high? First of all, it's really important to make sure your strategy is clear because without it, you're going to come across to others like you don't know what you're talking about or that you don't have a clear ask. And both of those are going to make people pause and not really connect with what you're saying. So it's really important that you have your strategy. Second, before you move to story, you need to identify the issues of concern. Now, in the sales process, we call these objections. The likely pushback from a customer. That's what sales objections are. And one thing I've noticed that a lot of leaders don't do is they don't contend with their own pushback, the pushback that they have going on in their own mind. And I find that people tend to try to get rid of that voice, to push it down because it's bad to have doubt. But what I want you to know is that that's your voice speaking to you. You need to contend with it if you want to figure out what it's trying to say, but there's value there. And the question I have for you is, how do you expect your voice to be there for you in these high stake moments when you aren't giving it the time of day to listen through and talk through the concerns? Now, in her case, what she told me was that this is a highly political issue. It's complicated. And her style, where she has this direct, very matter of fact, shoot in between the eyebrows kind of approach. And as her strategist, I can look at these concerns that she brings up as key characteristics of her entire messaging strategy. And these are all found in her own head. These weren't something that I came up with. They just came right from her. And once we identify what those are, we can contend with them. Some of them are going to get rid of, and some of them are going to be like key pillars of the communication that we put out there. So for example, highly political. Controversial topics make for great top of funnel communication because media outlets love that kind of stuff. If you can say something controversial, it will increase traffic and viewership, and people love that. So I'm noting here that there's a PR play that could appeal to national news outlets. Complicated. Complicated means we have many different audiences, which means that we have to spend some time breaking down and teasing apart the multiple different value propositions that are being communicated. That's going to make it a lot easier to figure out what's the overarching value proposition and what are the individual ones. And when you spend the time to do this, politicians and high profile executives, they have to do it all the time. But defining it for each segment is how you make sure that it's going to be received as you intend for each different group. And then style. The crazy thing about style is that the more of it you have, the less likely it is a good fit for all audiences. So the way to get around that is without having to morph yourself into someone else, someone that you're not, is to develop your range. Being able to be 100% you, 100% you on full blast, and then to be dialed back you. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be less you. It just means that the flair of your style can be more or less amped up depending upon the situation. And if you have spent some time understanding these different aspects of yourself and how they are both valuable and can be a little bit of a challenge, and putting them into play and you're practicing for your communication, you have the ability to pop in and out of these different characters that we like to call them in the acting world, and show different sides of yourself depending upon what is needed in that moment. So in conclusion, when you're trying to find your voice and the stakes are high, you need to make sure that your strategy is clear, because without it, it's going to come across to others like you don't really know what you're talking about, or that you don't have a clear ask. Both of those send us our minds in different directions, and they don't keep us focused on you. Next, you need to contend with those concerns that are floating around in your head. Get them down on paper. Some you're going to throw out, but that's your voice speaking to you. You have to go there with those conversations to identify the issue of concern. There's value there. A great deal of your strategic approach is found in the debate between your own ears. If you like this, please like it and comment. And if you think it will help people you know, please share it. If you're under a lot of pressure right now and you need some support to get your message straight, DM me and let's figure out how to do virtual coffee. My name is Jen Morgan, and you can learn more about me and what we do at radicallydistinct.com.